Hello and welcome everyone to the New Health Conversation podcast. My name is Peter Greenlaw. I've been a nutritional researcher for 22 years. Today I have the distinct honor to welcome one of the top weight loss nutrition physiologists in the entire world, Dr. Paul Arciero. And today what we're going to do for everyone, we're going to clear up all this misinformation about the whole diet mania. I call it almost a cult. This calories in, calories out. We're going to show you real medical proof, real medical studies, not scientific papers, the most comprehensive studies really ever done on weight loss, obesity, health, etc. So I'm going to welcome Dr. Arciero here. Hello, Dr. Arciero. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, this is a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Peter. Looking forward to diving into this, I'll say.
All right. So before we start, I just have to do a little disclaimer. This is for educational purposes only. It's not intended to treat, diagnose, cure any diseases. So let's get that out of the way. So let's jump into it right away, Dr. Arciero. First of all, one of the biggest pushbacks we seem to be getting is the whole idea and the misinformation around studies in general, peer-reviewed human trial studies that you actually did that are going to pretty much make every traditional diet completely obsolete. So let's get into the first comment where they said, let's see, without going into the quality of the study, not very good. It seems to be a case of misreading the results. Dr. Arciero, I'm not familiar with him, but he's basically advocating a high protein form of intermittent fasting for weight loss. And then they went on to say, I read and reread the studies, and you can ask the doctor, but it's quite clear that the 6 to 9% increase in muscle mass without exercise is misread. So you want to comment on that first part of this?
Peter, I'm sorry for chuckling. So when somebody's not familiar with a profession or a line of work, they're limited in their ability to understand and fully appreciate all that's in front of them. I know that if I were to go into a law firm or a trade profession and try to assume full understanding and competency in that profession that I am not trained in, I would have a level of learning to undergo. And it's just a simple matter of people not being fully informed of what is involved with science and their ability to not fully understand it. So it's not a fault. I'm not criticizing. I'm simply stating a fact, excuse me, of making a judgment, criticism, critical assessment of something that you're not fully capable of understanding because you don't have the training or the understanding. So, yeah, it's, I don't know what I can say to that comment.
Well, basically what they're saying is the quality of the study was not very good. I mean,
yeah.
So they don't even understand what you go through to get published in these major, we'll get to that in a moment about them criticizing the quality of the publications in which it was done. But what do you say about that? And it was misread that it's not 6 to 9% lean muscle. That's basically what, when they're saying, oh, the study wasn't very good. So, I mean, yeah. I know that this is complete nonsense.
Well, I mean, I don't have an opinion or a comment. My research is what it is. Science doesn't have an opinion, so I can't really pass an opinion on their misunderstanding. They just don't have the training, the understanding, the learning to be able to understand the data. So the data is the data. Yes, we observed a 9% increase in the proportion of lean body mass. That's as clear as day if you're a scientist and the data speaks for itself. So I can't pass a judgment. It's 9%. I can't change that. I can't say, well, you didn't, understand it right. Well, because you didn't. And so, yeah, for readers who are saying that the data is not groundbreaking and compelling and earth, shattering in terms of the findings, then they don't have an understanding of that. The data is the data. And I don't mean to be misspeaking or condescending. I'm just stating a fact that in the first study that was published in, Frontiers in Physiology, the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, and in Nutrients. So those three journals, all very high impact journals. Go and find that out for yourself. It's readily accessible to the world to see that those are high impact journals. Show that it was a 9% increase in the proportion of lean body mass. So I can't say anything else other than it was 9%. And then the obesity study that was published in 2022, and of course that's a high impact journal. It's one of the top tier journals in the world. We showed an 8 with that. By the way, that the 9% was in 12 weeks. So we showed, well, it was 11 weeks. We did the follow up testing in 12 weeks. We showed the 9% increase in the proportion of lean body mass. And then in the obesity study, that was an 8-week study. And that shows, in fact, I wrote that into the abstract. So I'm surprised that they couldn't see that in the abstract of the 8-week study in obesity. That was a 6% increase in the proportion of lean body mass compared to the Heart Healthy Mediterranean diet group after 8 weeks that had an increase of 3%. So that was a pretty good finding. And that's kind of average. Actually, even a little bit better than a lot of other studies, Peter, by the way, for the Heart Healthy Mediterranean study. So here I am saying that the group that we doubled in comparison, the quantity of the proportion of lean body mass in the protein pacing intermittent fasting group, we got 6% in 8 weeks. The Heart Healthy Mediterranean got 3%, and that was really good compared to a lot of other studies that only show about a 1.5%, in some cases, increase in the proportion of lean body mass. So even in our control group, the Heart Healthy Mediterranean, they outperformed what many studies had shown up until that time. So, I don't want to get into a, he said, she said, or
Well, no, but I think it's important.
emotional.
I think it's really important that we respond to the comments because,
Yeah.
again, then we leave it unknown. So they went on to say, I read the studies you sent me, very interesting. They didn't really tell me anything new. The studies used a calorie deficit, we're going to blow that up, and a high protein, renamed it protein pacing. So it's just another diet, really.
Again,
Let me finish. They also said, I've read the study, and the results are no different than any other caloric restricted protein rich diet. It just echoes what we know about protein rich diet and a calorie deficit. I've yet to see the paper, any evidence with a citation of a 9% gain in lean muscle mass, the same nonsense. So please comment on that part.
I can comment very easily. Yeah, there's a great movie that maybe this individual is familiar with. It's called Jerry Maguire. And in Jerry Maguire, one of the marquee lines in that study was, "Show me the money." So, this is a great example, Peter, where I would respond back if I were you, and I would say, show me the data. People can sit in their chair, right? Their Monday, the Monday morning quarterback chair.
Yeah.
So you can sit in your Monday morning quarterback chair as a scientist, a pseudo scientist, and say, this is all done before. This is all shown. Show me the data. I've been at it for 38 years. I've not seen this level of health improvement. I haven't seen it. I'm a scientist, 38 years. You're a Monday morning quarterback, science quarterback. So show me the data. I'd be very interested. I'm familiar with high protein diets showing losses in body weight in some ways, but not necessarily a favorable increase in body composition, or let me finish, or in some of the other health outcomes that we showed drastic improvement. For example, heart health, metabolic health, inflammatory health. So again, show me the data of other studies that across the board had the improvement. And we don't really pay attention to body weight. I mean, if you want to focus on body weight, I'm very familiar with the high protein diets that show massive improvement in body weight loss. But again, I can show similar losses of body weight eating Twinkies and Coca-Cola. I mean, people have done it, right? I mean, we know that people can lose weight doing literally anything, eating anything. It's just a matter of reducing calories. But using body weight as your metric as health improvement is really limited, short-sighted, and I would say that that's usually reserved for non-scientists who use body weight as the primary metric of health improvement. I don't even focus on body weight because it's not a really good measure of health improvement. So I don't look at body weight as a metric. We look at the health improvement markers as metrics of health improvement.
Well,
So I would just respond to that. But just I'm going to go back to this. If they're not familiar with me, have them just do Google Scholar. Just type into their computer, because they're really good at this. Apparently, as their Monday morning quarterbacking, type in Google Scholar on their computer, on the keyboard, as I'm doing it with my fingers, and type in my name, Paul Arciero, or Arciero PJ. Those are my, initials. And they'll come up with my metrics on Google Scholar, my number of citations. I've been cited over 9,000 times by other scientists. So that's a pretty good metric when you're cited over 9,000 times. I have an age index of 46. When they've looked at the greatest brilliant scientists in the world, usually when they're over 30, that's classification of having achieved a ranking of excellence in your stature as a scientist. I'm a 46, so you can judge that for yourself. The H, I should know this, the I-10, sorry, the H index was 46. The I-10 index, that's the number of times I've had published studies that have been cited by other scientists over 10 times. A good metric in that is if you've achieved over a 40, sometimes some would even use a 30, but if you've got an I-10 index over 40, that's considered outstanding as a scientist. And that's, of the, top 1% to 3% scientists. I'm a 71. So I don't know. I mean, if they're not familiar with me and I'm just another good old scientist, as they refer to me, and my research is mediocre, that's fine. You can classify me that as Monday morning quarterbacking.
Many people consider you the top in the world. That's good enough for me.
Well, if you're using
real scientific,
the unemotional, the unemotional, non-judgmental, right. Is what it is. Standards of metrics as a scientist.
So these personal trainers aren't. I don't think. What's their rating above 40? I'd like to know. But let's leave that aside for a moment. Here's the one that's going to really blow up, and that's this. It starts out, I read the results, and there's no difference between a caloric restricted and this is just a calorie restricted protein rich diet. They went on to say calorie reduction works regardless of nutrient content, yet good fitness professionals are also promoting nutrient dense foods. Americans don't have the problem because of calories in, calories out doesn't work. They have the problem due to the choices. There are also many underlying problems to a person gaining weight, becoming obese, none of which is due to calories in, calories out being wrong, which it isn't. This makes me crazy, because that's the one thing you said. They look at it and all they're saying is all you did was lower calories. They completely ignored nutrition. What am I missing? Please tell me what I'm missing.
Oh, no, you're not missing anything. I mean, they're missing it. It's a little bit short-sighted because it keeps them in business, right? I mean, I would just say that it's unfortunate that the loudest voices are from those types of people that are perpetuating the calories in, calories out. Nutrient density is not so much of an issue. We can lose weight just by reducing the calories. They want to perpetuate that, Peter, as long as possible. And so a great response to them would just be, it's unfortunate that you have that mindset of approach to helping people, because they know in their hearts that it's not right. They know what they're actually recommending for people to reduce calories and get into their gym and pay all kinds of money to help them, exercise them to exhaustion 5 or 6 days a week is just flat out wrong. And they know that these are people that are doing an injustice to the world because it helps them stay in business. These individuals, I don't know what I would want to call them, but they're disingenuous. They're unfortunately preying on the not educated public around how to achieve health. And so, I would just say that it's unfortunate that they can go to bed at night and put their head on the pillow and know that they've actually tried to help people in the correct way. It's an unfortunate dynamic that they're
but
looking
the
at this
most important point is that the calories were insignificant. It was all about nutritional density. That's what I want you to address, because that is the huge pushback from these people. They're saying that it's just a calorie deficit.
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily that the calories were insignificant, but they were very, very secondary and much less important. Because here's why. Once you give the body the nutrients that it needs and you've met that nutritional requirement, calories become insignificant. They become less of a factor. In fact, so much so that your body doesn't want to know what extra calories are needed or are consumed. You've met your nutrient needs. So yeah, it's a short-sighted approach. The body wants to be nourished, number one,
It
and
doesn't it
it's not
doesn't care
about
about calories. It only
it
cares
doesn't care
about
about
nutrition, and
calories.
that's where they're off. So they're just looking at this metric is the chatter out there, calories in, calories out is only. I've never heard any of them mention the fact what's in the calorie is the only thing that matters, and that really is what you concentrated on. Then another thing that they said that really is that's listen to this is what they said about your studies. Reading the studies, they kept participants sedentary, but they reduced calorie intake and they had them stay sedentary for 6 months. Think or remember that, right? Prior to the clinical trial starting. So body adapts accordingly, and then low calories consumed and result weight loss and improved health. Oh, the diet was monitored by a dietitian and macros balance. So obese people stay sedentary but change diet to reduce calories and eat more nutrient dense meals, and this is weight loss. Did I miss anything? Yeah, you idiot. I can say that. No, respond to that. About did you had the people
Well, they did.
sedentary for 6 months? What?
I don't know I don't know how I'm responding to something that is so childish because they didn't read the study. It wasn't 6 months. The studies were 12 weeks of a nutritional intervention, and we didn't tell them to be sedentary. We just asked them not to change their normal physical activity because that would be what is called for these individuals that we're responding to right now who are not familiar with scientific research. That would be a confounding variable if we allowed them to change their exercise. In research, Peter, you can't have confounding variables. That limits the interpretation of your findings. So just let these people know that they didn't read the study, number one, and they're passing judgment. So this is a little bit silly for me. I've never responded to a group of individuals on TikTok or whatever this is that you're using, who haven't done their due diligence and read the actual science, or who are trained in understanding and interpreting science. So I think maybe first they need to go back to school and first learn how to understand scientific research. But I can help them understand it. So here's what we showed in the study. Here's what we found. Here's what we did. We took a group of people that were in need of a health intervention. They were not healthy. They had one or more complications of metabolic dysfunction. And so they needed a lifestyle intervention. And before we put them on the path of pharmaceutical interventions, let's try first of a lifestyle intervention. So that's what we did. We put them on a lifestyle intervention. We divided them into, in the first study, we had them just do the protein pacing intermittent fasting, not changing their exercise. And they were fairly sedentary. I wouldn't say that they sat around all day inside of the house. They went out and worked. They walked from their car into their business. They went grocery shopping. If they had stairs in their house, they took stairs. So these people weren't, sitting around or lying around in a bed for 12 weeks. And then we followed them up for a year, and after the 12 weeks of the actual weight loss, component, or the health improvement component, we divided them into a healthy group, and we had them continuing doing the protein pacing nutritional fasting for a full year. We'd have them do a full year, not 6 months, full year. And we allowed them to go back to their normal daily routine. If some of them wanted to start exercising, they were allowed to do that. So we allowed them to introduce a naturalistic lifestyle. And there was no differences at the end of the year in their levels of physical activity. So if this person had read the study, they would know that for the first 12 weeks, we monitored them and asked them not to change what they had normally been doing in terms of their exercise.
But in essence, I thought that in one of the studies, it was just the one where you said no exercise. You actually had them monitor.
No exercise. Well, we're talking about two different things. Okay. In both studies,
that's what I want.
No. Let me clarify, because I want to make sure that this is really clear, so that there's no misinterpreting. In both studies, we said we do not want you to participate in any exercise. So that was true. That doesn't mean that they were sedentary. It just means that they didn't do any structured, planned exercise. Were they physically active? Yes, they had to take stairs. They had to walk to their car. They had to move around, do their house chores and things, cook and dishes. So we just didn't allow, because there's the difference between exercise and physical activity. Maybe your audience needs a little education on that as well. Sorry to be this condescending, and I don't mean to be. I'm just saying that this is not unusual for the general public not to know the difference between exercise and physical activity. We didn't allow exercise, but physically active, they were, doing their daily routine, but they were fairly sedentary in what they were doing. At the end of the 12 weeks in the first study, we did allow them to go out and begin to exercise. So for that year follow-up, we didn't allow them not to exercise. No. They were allowed to exercise in a naturalistic environment. We monitored them. And there was no difference between the groups. So there was no difference between the protein pacing intermittent fasting group and the heart healthy group in the amount of calories they were burning from exercise. No difference. Were they running a marathon or a 5K? No. Were they maybe going to a yoga class occasionally, or were they going to the YMCA to do, a treadmill exercise, or to engage in a once a week resistance training? Sure, of course we were allowing that. We wanted them to be healthy in that 1 year follow up. Were we allowing them during the intervention of the 12 weeks or the 8 weeks study? No. In the obesity study, and the Nature Communication study, that was a whole different study. That was 8 weeks. During that time period, we did not allow them to exercise. It was an 8-week study, 8-week intervention. We asked them to maintain their normal level of physical activity. And in this case, because again, they were a group of people that were not regularly exercising, they were fairly sedentary. So just to make sure we have this very, very clear, was exercise allowed during the actual intervention of the 12-week study? In this first Skidmore study, which was back in 2014, no, they were not allowed to exercise. After the 12 weeks of that intervention, and we followed them for a full year, were they allowed to exercise? 100% certainty. In both groups, both the heart healthy group and in the protein pacing intermittent fasting group. Were they doing a lot of exercise? No, it was averaging about 2, maybe 3 days a week in some cases. Was there any difference between the two groups in the amount of exercise they were doing? No, zero. There was no difference. In the 8-week study that was conducted in 2021 to 2022, that was published in Obesity and Nature Communications, during that 8 weeks, were they allowed to exercise? No, they were not allowed to exercise. They were able to maintain their same level of physical activity that they came into the study, which was pretty low. We called it sedentary in terms of the classification because they were not regularly exercising. So I hope that helps, Peter.
Yeah, well, there's
I hope it helps your listeners who...
Two other very important points. Number one, there's a confusion about intermittent fasting. We're not talking about time-restricted eating where they don't eat for 16 hours, eat for 8. We're talking about intermittent nutritional fasting. You had them fast with nutrition. That's a really important point that I want you to clarify for everyone.
Yeah, so, again, here, the general public is accustomed to hearing, reading, seeing, and only understanding one component of what people do when they engage in a diet. And again, dieting is just reducing calories, and that has not proven successful. You've written a book on it, of course, Why Diets Fail. Diets don't work.
This one right here.
Yeah, I can't see it, but I'm sure you just showed it. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about apples and oranges, two completely different things. We're not talking about dieting. Our groups did not diet. We provided them a lower calorie intake, but with high nutrient density.
That's what I wanted you to get to. That's really important people understand. They're focusing on the calorie and ignoring the nutrition, which is the only thing the body cares about.
Yeah, so I think, just to clarify this, with intermittent fasting, what's mostly understood to be with intermittent fasting is that you reduce the calories, not the nutrient, but you just reduce the calories for a certain period of time. Dieting or caloric restriction, you reduce your calorie intake over a consistent period of time. So in the one study that you sent me, that was a comparison of having one group of people that have just reduced calories for an extended period of time. That's called dieting, caloric restriction. And then they compared it to a group of people that did what was called intermittent fasting, which was not eating, so no nourishment on a period of time, a day or two, or during a certain period of time. We call it time-restricted eating. But they really just focus on the calories that you're not eating. So it's just a reduction in your calorie intake for a certain period of time. And then you go back to eating normal or even a little bit more than what you normally did. And what they showed in that review that you sent, that was a peer-reviewed meta-analysis, is that the fasting group did slightly better. They kind of, made it sound like there was no difference, but if you read the details of the study, there was actually some small differences that the fasting groups did a little bit better. That's not what we do, though. We don't have people just starve themselves for either 16 hours or 18 hours during the day. We call it time-restricted eating, or we have them starve themselves for a day, 24 hours, or a 36-hour time period. So we don't do that. We actually reduce calorie intake, but we increase the nutrient density massively during that.
And the results of that meta-analysis you sent me compared to what you did were pitiful. I mean, it's just, if you had a choice to do what they did and what you did, you'd be out of your mind if you didn't choose what you did.
Well, I would not do that.
How much did they lose in what period of time on that study that you?
Yeah, so in 6 months they lost an average of 12 to 13 pounds. So that's about 2 pounds. 2 pounds a month. It's about a half a pound a week. Which, if you read what most health experts recommend for weight loss, and I did notice, I think in one of your comments from one of your followers who are criticizing the data, they say, well, it's not good to lose weight quickly. Slow and steady wins the race when it comes to weight loss, and they obviously don't know the science. And again, I don't want to get into a nitpicking judgmental.
No, but you need to clarify that point, because
they don't know the research. The research shows very clearly those who lose weight the fastest. So you want to be a rabbit, a tortoise off the line, a tortoise. You want to lose weight as fast as you can. That's going to allow you to,
as long as it's healthy weight loss and not lean muscle.
As long as it's healthy weight loss, that's right. Yeah, we're talking about, again, apples and oranges, two different ends of the spectrum. So when people hear me say, "Oh, lose weight as quickly as possible," they immediately shut down and say, "Oh, they don't know what they're talking about. That's not healthy." If you do it the right way, and if you have high nutrient density and you lose weight the fastest compared to those that lose weight more slowly, well then, yes, if you know the science, you know that the ones that lose it the healthiest, the quickest, have the greatest long-term success than those who lose it the slowest over that time period. So, yeah, that's just a known scientific fact, Peter. And I'm happy to.
Here's another one that'll get us going. You can't be in a deficit and lose a ton of weight and put on muscle without exercise. That's not how putting on muscle works. Just like people can't take steroids and magically get ripped and huge without workout and a proper diet. This is false information. And if I'm wrong, send me the case studies. I'll review them and get back to you. They go on to say, any nutrient is toxic in high enough amounts, but even high protein intakes are not toxic. As for leucine making muscle, no, that's incorrect. Leucine can be considered the trigger amino acid, but tissue is created from combinations of various protogenic AAAs, essential aminos, actually. The reason we're decent... The reason there were decent results, but not the huge ESU suggests in the studies you alluded to, was due to a higher protein intake. Protein is toxic, just as water or basically any vitamin or mineral. But even in functionally high amounts, it's not. With the greatest respect, you're making extraordinary claims, so you really should back them up with appropriate citation. There's not a quick diet. It's a lifestyle change to just be more mindful of what you eat, not a quick fix for weight loss. This change is necessary for health. I was hungry. I still had plenty of calories left for the day, and I've just started a new medication which has me ravenous. Whoa, comment on that.
Wow. I don't know where to start.
Leucine doesn't make muscle, right?
Well, leucine is the light switch, right? You need to have the electrical current going to the light bulb to get the light to turn on.
But you can't lose weight quickly and gain lean muscle. That's impossible, right? Isn't that what he was saying?
Yeah, I mean that's wrong. I've proven that, others have as well, that you can lose weight and gain muscle through the right means. Protein pacing. So they don't know protein pacing, so there's not much I want to comment on that. I would just encourage them to go out and read some of my research on protein pacing. They're digging their feet in the sand. They're speaking from a high, lofty standpoint of knowing it all. And I always caution, when you have someone that comes across as a know-it-all, I'd be very, very reluctant to take any information from them. I clearly do not know it all. I just know my data and I know the science. And I know that when you, and by the way, they're misspeaking when they're saying it's high protein. This is not a high protein diet unless they're defining a high protein in their own way. high protein diets, a lot of times are defined as those that are 45 to 50% or higher. That's not what we use. They don't know the research. Again, they haven't read my studies, so I can't really comment on that. I would just encourage them first to go and read the studies instead of passing judgment. So yeah, the protein pacing is a proven. In fact, it was just rated number 4 as one of the top diets of 2024. They called it a diet, which I thought was great. But First for Women just ranked it number 4. Protein pacing. So yeah, it's new to a lot of people. So I think there's a lot of apprehension, a lot of reluctance. I think there's a lot of knee-jerk criticism of it. But yeah, I would just tell this person who appears to know all the answers and have all the answers, which is a little bit worrisome for me as a scientist, that they don't. Maybe it's just worthwhile. And why are they so closed-minded to maybe consider that there's something that has been thoroughly tested for 38 years and by a scientist who knows a little something and has accomplished a little bit of something, that this may be a new way of looking and evolving in our understanding. And that combination of the protein pacing with the nutritional fasting, together, look at, we've complemented these things. We've brought them together synergistically. And maybe this person just needs to have an open mind that when we can take two really good things that have proven science behind them and combine them together, that may in fact elicit and produce and create something so unique, so special that we've never seen it before in the history of humankind.
Well, you've studied for years. You studied all these other diets so you could compare it. You've never seen anything. Wait till you hear this comment. You don't need protein powder to build muscle. Just eat real food. The fitness industry loves to sell you supplements, but real foods work just as well or better. Do you agree, or are you a team protein powder? Also, sir, of course you lose muscle. There's less weight to carry around. You'll not keep muscle you don't use. What the hell? Pardon my French. What? Comment on that, please.
So yeah, I think I would say they've got something. You probably could do it with whole food, although I'm not convinced that you can. But maybe, and I'm not quite sure what they mean by whole food. Whey protein, undenatured whey protein, is as whole food as you can get.
Right.
It's a lot less processed than a lot of other foods that they're thinking are whole foods. Undenatured whey protein is about the purest form of whole food you can get. But anyway, leave that as it may. If they don't want to even do that, which is considered to be the gold standard of natural whole food you can get, yeah, you could probably do it, but you would need a full-time chef, right? I mean, unless you don't have a job or you're financially wealthy. I don't have that luxury. I mean, I guess some people do, right? Who are uber wealthy. So maybe they're referring to just the most wealthy in the world, and that's fine. Yeah, you could eat whole food, but you'd have to be completely financially independent and wealthy to have your own full-time chef to cook you those meals every single day for hours on end, and purchasing the highest quality foods that are sourced from around the world. But gosh, I don't know that for the general for 99.9% of the general population that doesn't have the luxury of being able to source their food from all over the world with the highest nutrients within those foods, and then to be able to prepare them, with their own personal private chef. I mean, they're talking very elite here, and I'm not really comfortable with that. So this person's comments about, yeah, you can eat whole food. Well, we're not in the same financial situation that you are. Sorry. So we're real humans that don't have that luxury. That's how I would respond to that.
Well, more on, so this is about protein again. No, it's the calories, except for protein. And in the studies cited on your site, comparing your IF, intermittent fat protocol to control diets, they weren't protein matched. So yeah, we'd expect increased fat loss with a higher protein ratio.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's precedent from other studies that have shown that, but not across the board. I mean, you're going to really get upset a lot of the plant-based people who believe that you don't need that much protein to achieve optimal health and weight loss and body composition improvement. So I guess they are. This one person is agreeing that a higher protein is potentially better, and I would agree. I would say, good. Yes, you do know a little bit of the research, a little bit. That yes, higher proteins, not high, but higher protein.
But your studies weren't high protein. They're accusing you of something that's not true.
Right, they were higher protein. They were not necessarily high protein. But I would even just say that we do know that protein is more thermogenically beneficial. But here's one of the just really important component to this. Right, our meals are not high protein. The type of protein, to just suggest that, oh, just eating higher protein is going to be beneficial. Well, what would they recommend? I'm curious to know what their recommendation would be for someone that they would say, a higher protein intake is beneficial.
Well, the
What kind of
carnivore people would say grass-fed beef, et cetera. I'm sure that's what.
yeah, so that's good. Yeah,
It's
no,
not bad, but it's not this.
yeah, it's not this. Yeah, there's some
Because
nuances to it.
I mean, unless I'm wrong, over 38 years, you did study using organic, the best foods available, putting people on, never produce any results like this. That's what you said. Never in 38 years have you ever seen results like you published in these 10 big peer-reviewed human trial medical studies. And see, the thing is, this is crazy. They said gaining weight back is not because of calories in, calories out doesn't work. It's because it's behavior change is needed. Your R2M method is a diet too that uses calorie control. Thanks for this riveting conversation where you keep moving the goalposts. A deficit is what you need to lose weight unless you're suggesting that we all eat more calories. The R2M diet that you sent me uses calorie control diets to back up its claims. What?
So again, they're misinterpreting it. Yeah, the focus, Peter, again, is misdirected. It's misguided. They stated it several times in what you just read to me. They're looking at body weight as the determining factor of health. And I think that's where the big issue is. And I think that's where this misunderstanding is between the voices that are being mentioned here. Yeah, there's just confusion. They are using, I don't use weight as the metric of health improvement. They are. So all of these people that you're referring to, every one of them.
And none of their studies have the health the health benefits you've proven. And see, here's
Right.
what they go on and say. It's weird that all these bodybuilders using calorie controlled nutrition and losing so much muscle mass method use intermittent fasting and caloric intake and a high protein diet. It's not new. I mean, my client has lost so much muscle. It's nonsense.
Yeah.
Am
Yeah,
I right?
I mean, yes, of course. If you're just using protein and then calorie deficit, and they're losing muscle, I would say, yeah, that could be what happens. Because if you're only focusing on the protein and not the other nutrients, and you're reducing calorie intake, then that's not an ideal situation. You'll lose weight, and you'll lose some muscle mass there too. Protein is not the only determining factor that we focus on. We focus on nutrient density. We focus on the nutrients, the micronutrients that are coming in. So I think that's where the misunderstanding is. And so, this combination of the nutritional fasting, which is not just a reduction in calories for, a 48-hour time period or more, it's high nutrient density while you're on that lower caloric intake. And what's the benefit coming from? Is it the lower calories or is it the higher nutrient density? Well, if you look at our data, it's clearly a function of the higher nutrient density. Is the lower calorie aspect beneficial? Of course it is. And I give the analogy of cleaning your house. Would you clean your house with a bunch of debris and furniture and dishes and other things scattered all over? No, of course not. We had our house cleaned the other day, and the first thing we had to do was clean up all the clutter in order for the cleaners to come in and clean the house, and that's what resulted in a really clean house. If we had them come in with all of our clutter still all around, we would not have had the same level of cleanliness after they left. So it's the same thing in the body. What's the more important determining factor? Well, it's a combination. You want to have less calories coming in, but it's clearly the cleanliness aspect that they were using to clean, and that's the same way inside of our body. So yeah, I mean, all of these things, and I appreciate all the comments. The comments are very useful, but I think we're focusing on two different things. One camp is focusing on weight loss as the ultimate determining factor
the holy grail of calories.
Of what increases our health, right? So it's weight loss, reduction of calories, and they're right. It is all about reduction of calories to get weight loss. So we're not, I think we're actually on the same page here, Peter. They're on one hand saying low calorie for weight loss, and guess what? I agree 100%. Low calorie for weight loss. You want to lose weight? Low calorie. Weight loss, low calorie wins the day. If you want optimal health, reducing the number of calories is not the way to achieve optimal health. Well, I'm more about optimal health over here on this hand. This hand, I want optimal health. So it's not weight loss and calorie reduction. It's nutrient density. It's the quality of the nutrition that we're consuming and nourishing our body with. It's high quality protein. It's high quality vitamins and minerals. It's high quality antioxidants. It's high quality adaptogens. It's high quality nourishment. That's going to win the day for optimal health. Weight loss, low calorie. Weight loss, low calorie. Optimal health, optimal nutrition, optimal health.
Well, that's why I've always said in my book when I wrote, I said, why the hell are we counting calories? Let's make every calorie count, which is to your point, you're making every calorie count from a nutritional standpoint. That's what they don't get. They just associate everything with calories. And I love that. Yes, calories will reduce your weight in the most unhealthy way, losing lean muscle and slowing down your immune system. That sounds good to me. Now, let's go 2 more points. One, we get this all the time about this thermodynamics, and this is from a PhD pharmacist, okay, saying just because there's more variables doesn't mean it doesn't come down to energy in versus energy out. Sure, different foods will have different amounts of calories, not exactly 4 calories per gram, but maybe 3.4. So eating healthier foods will give you a different result, while also resulting in a calorie deficit. Otherwise, I'd like you to explain how a man ate only Twinkies and junk food and yet still lost weight. There's a beautiful one for you.
Gosh.
You have to laugh a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate what their standpoint is, but it's totally inaccurate. In a free living, open circuit human, it does not hold. So for them to hold on to that dogma about it being, and you have the evidence, you have the Johns Hopkins and the Harvard who said, stop counting calories.
Right.
In an open circuit human, the free energy is totally different from what it is in a closed circuit of the laws of thermodynamics. It does not hold up. Why people continue to hold, bright people continue to hold on to that. They still think that the human body is a closed circuit. It's not a closed circuit. We don't live in a closed circuit as humans. We're breathing out, we're breathing in, we're expending out. It's a silly application. It does not hold true. It never has and it never will. So I don't know what else to respond to that person. And yes, if they're not familiar with that data, there was a nutrition scientist from the University of Minnesota who ate Little Debbie's, I think it was. So maybe, okay, it wasn't Twinkies, and so, but it was Little Debbie's, for 8 or 12 weeks and lost a massive amount of weight. So I don't know what that person is talking about to suggest that you can't lose weight eating Twinkies and drinking Coca-Cola. Of course you can. You can eat Dunkin' Donuts every single day for every single meal and lose massive amounts of weight, as long as you're only eating 1 Dunkin' Donut for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe 2.
Well, the last one is one of your favorite topics. GLPs are great and producing great results. I invite you to go read the New England Journal of Medicine study instead of repeating inflammatory claims you appear to be falsely adding to your internet. 68 weeks on semaglutide resulted in some lean muscle mass. However, this result is an improved ratio of lean to fat mass and improved physical functioning. I've linked to the studies so you can see the actual great results. That one you're going to blow the hell up. You're going to blow it to smithereens, I hope.
They didn't read the study. They cited it. I appreciate that. They didn't read the appendix. And so, there is a part of a peer-reviewed published study called the appendix. And oftentimes scientists like myself and the authors from the New England Journal of Medicine paper and the Journal of the American Medical Association, Lancet, all of Cell Reports, we all publish appendices. When I published in Nature Communications, which I think you had one of your viewers who said
we need to address that real quick. Nature Communications is not the number 1 medical journal in the world. Well, let's do it after GLP-1 because we're going to close out, and then I have one other thing.
I don't know. I mean, again, these are kind of silly to respond to because they don't know what they're talking about. But with the GLP-1, no one's suggesting that they're not potentially beneficial.
Of course,
in conjunction with a healthy lifestyle. You can't just prescribe these as they're being prescribed and telling people, go out and exercise and, try to be healthy. That's ridiculous. That's not advice. That's not recommendation. That's not, helping people at all. To claim that the New England Journal didn't have the loss of lean body mass. It was 40%. You got to go and do the
I
work.
have
You
it
got to
right
go
here,
and
by the way.
yeah, read the appendices. It's clear as day.
40% lean muscle mass. It's
Yes, it's
not up for debate.
40%.
So
So
let's address this. So this is the big one. As far as as far as the world's concerned, Nature Communications is certainly in the top. Well, you expand on that when they said, well, Nature, it's not very impressive to be in Nature Communications. Really?
yeah,
It only took you 38 years to get in there, right?
yeah. I, I don't want to comment on that because it would make me become or appear to be defensive and justifying them saying that it's not a top tier journal. Yeah, just go and look it up. You can Google it. What rank is the Nature Communications? Yeah, it's one of the top tier journals in the world. Not much more I can say about it. It's consistently ranked within the top journals. So I don't know where they're getting their data from or what they're using. But again, Google and searching on the web can be so deceiving because depending upon the the integrity and the validity and the honesty of the source of where it's coming from, then it's not that high. Again, based on what you sent me, that they sent you in terms of journal rankings, I would pay absolutely zero credence to that. It was just some bogus website that was ranking journals. And in fact, they had some of the journals that were ranked in the top 100 that are not very well respected journals. I mean, they're mediocre. So it was just a fabricated. It was literally a fabricated website that was ranking scientific journals with no scientific basis, credibility, validity, ethical standard to that ranking. So yeah, I don't want to comment
Well,
on it. It was just
so
not a
so in closing, let me summarize for everybody my understanding, and then hopefully you can validate. What I've said all along is that for 38 years, you've done, I don't know how many studies, maybe thousands of people on all these calorie reduction, whatever. What you basically figured out that really all a diet is, let's forget calories for a moment because that's just a measurement. A diet is lowering the quantity of food you're consuming. Let's be honest, that's what it is. But what
yeah
they never tell you is, and that's why just focusing on calories is ridiculous. The body, correct me if I'm wrong, we have a minimum amount of nutrition that we need in order to run the brain, the kidney, the liver, all our organs. It doesn't run on calories, it runs on nutrition. So what you basically did in what you did with protein pacing and intermittent nutritional fasting, from what you've told me, you figured out, okay, could we lower the quantity of food people were consuming, but not lower the nutritional density? And you did it by limiting the amount of food from 30-40% from organic foods in this country. But the key point was and here's to be clear, you don't sell anything, we don't sell anything to them. They buy directly from these other researchers who literally had gone around the world to Russia, to Tibet, South America, New Zealand, to bring in foods with huge amounts of nutrition, but not huge amounts of quantity. Then you created two completely different ways of consuming food: protein pacing, which essentially you have people have these 5 foods from around the world, which you've said really they're the world's most perfect food from a nutritional standpoint of view. You have that for breakfast. You have lunch from the grocery store list. You have a third meal and a fourth meal. The world's 5 days a week, and 2 days a week they do intermittent nutritional fasting, not intermittent fasting, where on those days they're only consuming these foods from around the world 4 times a day. That's what makes this different. That's what makes it unique. That's why the whole argument on calories in, calories out is both good and bad. Yes, if you just were counting calories, you've lowered the amount of calories. But really what you've done is lowered the amount of food. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, when we're hungry, we're not hungry for calories. Am I wrong? The human body has no idea what a calorie is. It's a measurement, the amount of heat it takes to raise a gram of water 1 degree Celsius. That's it. So this fascination, this almost cult-like fascination with calories only, like you said, yeah, you'll lose weight, but it's the wrong kind of weight. All the studies show that the New England Journal of Medicine, but also other studies show up to 40% of what people are losing on these diets. Yeah, they're losing weight, but it's lean muscle mass, which slows down metabolism. And like this one big study that I had over here, they said why you shouldn't count calories. Well, counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term. The approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. What's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to counter restrict calories gain back more than they lost. You must have seen this in 38 years. It's not some aberration that these researchers came up with this. Am I right? And did I explain it correctly?
You did. You definitely explained it correctly. Yes. And so, I think what's happening is that there's a huge dichotomy and divide. Some people on one side are saying it's all about calories in, calories out. The other camp is saying it's only about nutrient density. It's probably somewhere in the middle, right? I mean, it's just like everything else with, a disagreement. But there's one side that is definitely more heavily impacting how our body responds from a health standpoint. And that's clearly the quality of the nutrition that we're consuming, not the quantity. So I think we've got to be appreciative of both sides, but understand that one clearly wins the day and plays a much, much more heavy influence and impact on our overall health. And that's the quality of the nutrients that we're consuming. And so I think that's the message that I would like to end with, is just that let's be more open-minded, and the people that are continually digging their feet in the sand, saying it's all about the amount of calories that we're consuming that wins the day, and that's just not true. There's no scientific evidence to support that. For weight loss, yes, if you want to focus on just weight loss, knowing that that's not a very good health indicator, how much weight a person loses. It's about the quality of the composition and the nutrients that impact our overall health more than anything. That one wins the day. So, in terms of rank order, the quality, without question, is such a more important, impactful. And that's what our research has showed. Our research has showed consistently, day in and day out for the last 38 years, Peter, that it's the quality of the nutrients. It's not just a matter of saying, it's the macro distribution. It's this much protein, this much carb, this much fat. That's quantity again. It's about the quality of the protein that you're consuming. It's about the quality of the carbohydrates you're consuming. It's about the quality of the fats you're consuming. And it even rings truer when it comes to the micronutrients. And just commenting on that one individual who said, eating whole foods is the way to go. Well, if they had followed the latest research, the study that was published in Lancet that showed this massive global deficiency in micronutrients, and that's a fancy word for
1
vitamins
billion
and
people.
minerals. Yeah, we have a
Obese.
global,
1 billion people clinically obese.
global
Saying
epidemic.
making obesity the leading form of malnutrition in the world. There you go.
Yeah. So to suggest that we can obtain all of our nutrients from foods is just not accurate. There's no science to support that. We need to have support from supplementation and greater nutrient density, micronutrient density of things that we're consuming. And so that does require us to be better able to source some of these really high
from the far reaches of the world with ingredients like you're not going to find something like adaptogens in Iowa. They're just not there.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
So,
you've got to go to places in the world that have this.
Yeah, Whole Foods isn't going to win the day unless, like we said before, unless you're like this uber wealthy person who has the opportunity to buy, the top quality, most expensive sourced foods in the world, and you have your full-time chef. That's not 99.9% of the population. We need to go out and source our food at the highest quality in a reasonable cost to help nourish us. And supplementation is without question necessary for the majority of the world. And so,
it's a great way to end this. And I can't thank you enough. I think this is going to really help a lot of people. We're not trying to add to an argument. We're trying to educate people about the real facts with real science, without opinions. Because science, I always say, it has no emotions, unlike me. It has no opinions. It doesn't have a prejudice. It just is. And those are the results. And again, it's the camp. If you want to lower calories, you're going to lose weight in a really unhealthy way. If you want to be healthy, you can if you lower the calories that have nutrition, that is the secret to success. That's what you prove. That's what your studies prove, really. That's if I got the biggest thing I got from this today was the key. It had nothing to do with quantity. It only had to do with quality. And you're not going to match that just by getting your Whole Foods at your local grocery store. Get that out of your mind. That's not possible.
It's not. And the other key to this is to not, let's see, how do I want to frame this? Be cautious of the naysayers and the know-it-alls. So the two ends, naysayers and know-it-alls, because everything that you've reported to me in all of these various discussions and opinions and really, hard-nosed, critical assessments of listeners and viewers that you have are ones that don't know the science. They don't know the research. They're speaking from a standpoint of just assumption that they know it. And they haven't read the studies. Everyone that you reported that we went over did not have a firm understanding. So I hear the music in the background. That means our time is up.
Right.
Peter, thanks for having me.
Thank you very, very much. Thanks so much, Dr. Arciero.